Hi, I'm attorney John Kane with Kane & Associates. Today we're going to be speaking about the 9 steps to a personal injury jury trial. First and foremost is the injury in your case. Typically in these accident-type cases, there's a car accident where they involve being rear-ended, T-boned, side-swiped, or even a head-on collision. As soon as possible after a car accident, it's important that you contact 911, that you contact law enforcement, and have what's called an accident report drafted. It's important that you not only call the police to the scene, but when they arrive, you specifically ask them for an accident report. Sometimes they can just draft an incident report that won't capture all the information that's necessary for your case. So it's important that you specifically ask for an accident report. And why is that so important? Well, the accident report doesn't only document where the event took place, but who the involved parties were, a diagram of the accident itself, a determination, at least on the scene by the officer, of who may have been the at-fault driver. Additionally, it documents the witnesses, involved parties, insurance providers, car information, tag information, basically everything that you or your personal injury attorney will need to get the process started in identifying parties and building that base of information for your case. So it's very important that as soon as possible you call 911 and begin documenting what's happened, documenting your injuries, and documenting what happened at the scene. In a separate video you can watch, we'll speak to the 6 steps of what you should do with the accident itself. This video speaks to a larger time frame, the entirety of your case. So that's the first step, is when you're injured, it's important that you immediately contact law enforcement and have an accident report done. Second step is treatment. Unfortunately, many of the injuries that people suffer after a car accident or personal injury accident take a long time to develop. Soft tissue injuries sometimes take days, weeks, or even months to present themselves. And that's why it's so important as soon as possible that you go to a specialist, someone that can evaluate you, do an assessment, and use their professional experience to document your injuries. One thing that people need to keep in mind is you cannot simply go to a general practitioner. You cannot go to your family physician and have them give you 1, the care, 2, the expertise, or 3, the evaluation necessary, 1, to provide proper treatment for your injuries, but also to document things for your case. So it's important that in that very first week after your accident that you're able to get in with a specialist, an orthopedist, or a chiropractor, or a physical therapist, and begin the process of not only treating your issues, but documenting them. It's important to keep in mind that no amount of money is worth your health, and whether it's to support your personal injury case or to support your recovery, it's important that you start immediately to seek that treatment. So this step, along with these next 3, really overlap because it's kind of an interplay of these different issues as your case is moving forward. It's important that when you go to see that orthopedist or that chiropractor, that you're able to get an MRI done. And what an MRI is a much more detailed image of your body than an X-ray. And oftentimes people will feel pain, but it's difficult to actually identify or document those injuries. The great thing about an MRI is, although there must be a medical degree of necessity in order for one to be ordered, it can show actual damage to soft tissue, whether it be disc between your spine or muscle, or things that aren't as obvious as a broken bone in an X-ray. And it's important to have that documentation not only to improve your case, but also to allow a medical professional or specialist to look at those images and help develop a treatment plan so that you can move forward. There's really 3 major areas that the majority of injuries, at least initially, are seen in car accident cases, especially head-on collisions or rear-end collisions, and those are to the spine or to the bones that make up your back. And it really consists of 3 sections. You have your cervical spine, C1 through C5, or your neck. There's the thoracic spine, T1 through T12, and there's also the lumbar spine, L1 through L5, which makes up the bottom of your back into your tailbone. Oftentimes in these rear-end collisions, we'll see the cervical spine has the most immediate injuries. Whiplash, potentially herniated disc, things from that jarring motion as the force of your body may move forward and the real pain may come in the neck area. And so that's an important area to look out for. Typically in the back, the thoracic spine, this area, there's not a whole lot of injuries that are seen. There are some, but the base of the back, the lumbar, L1 through L5 is the largest disc for the actual bones themselves, and the space in between those shock absorbers, that's where a lot of injuries happen as well. These discs that fall between each of the bones in your spine take on a lot of damage from collisions of this type. And it's important that you receive proper treatment, that proper evaluation from an orthopedist or a chiropractor, so that those herniated discs, pinched nerves, other issues that are more difficult to see can be properly treated so that your medical treatment is taken care of. So it's important to keep in mind that issues related to your neck, your cervical spine, and issues related to your lumbar spine are looked at by a specialist as soon as possible. In some instances, injuries to the back, extremities, arms, legs, other things will be so severe that additional treatment may be needed, whether it be from an orthopedist or an orthopedic surgeon if you have a broken bone, or things of that nature. It's not entirely common that we see those types of injuries, but they do occur. And one of the things that makes it so important that early on you seek treatment is you can have those things looked at, and a medical professional who's a specialist can do an assessment and determine what's the best treatment plan for your specific injury for exactly what your body is going through. And that leads to the next step, hiring a personal injury attorney. It's a very important step. It's a very personal decision who you're going to trust with your future, with your case. But it's important to keep in mind the attorney you hire is familiar with these issues, has familiarity with the medical issues, as well as the legal issues in this process. So you want to make sure that as you're vetting a personal injury attorney, you find someone that knows this information, that will take on your case for free, that will only receive compensation if you are awarded damages or you're awarded compensation, and that you have a good feeling about, someone that you can know, like, and trust as you're putting your case in their hands. So it's really important that you hire the right attorney, because that attorney can most likely, or our office could put you in contact with potential orthopedists, potential treatment providers that could help you make these decisions and evaluate your treatment, whether it be level of surgery, orthopedic treatment, chiropractic treatment, physical therapy, or other things to deal with, potentially even just pain management. Another point is the investigation of your case. It's important to not stop at the police report, the incident report, or accident report. With the assistance of experienced personal injury attorney, you can evaluate much, much more about your case. You can speak with witnesses. You can get photographs of the scene. You can look at traffic and incident reports. You can look into the history of the other driver. You can find out what coverage they have and what their insurance provider is wanting to do. You can take photographs of your injuries. You can document with making sure that you're following the right treatment plan, again, not just for your health, but to make sure that you're not missing out on anything that you can claim in your personal injury case. And the right attorney will be able to assist you with that if they have experience in these medical issues, experience with representing clients that are suffering from these things. That leads to the next point, the actual first step of filing the claim. So Oklahoma is an at-fault state, which means that you cannot be 51% or more responsible for a traffic accident and recover damages. And so it's important to early on be building this narrative of what issues took place in your case so that you can insulate your claim. But at the same time, you need to early and aggressively file a complaint or a claim with the other driver, the at-fault driver's insurance provider. There's also uninsured motorist issues in Oklahoma that you need to make sure that you're looking into and addressing to ensure that you're not only getting one pot of potential damages or insurance coverage, but all the potential sources of uninsured motorist or insured motorist coverage that you may be able to access. So it's important that you file a claim timely, that you have assistance doing that. Some instances, insurance providers are there to make money. And sometimes insurance adjusters will try and make sure they document things you say or admissions you make that may reduce your claim, may reduce the injuries that you allege to minimize the damages that you receive in your case. So it's important that you document these things as best as possible so that you can make the right claim. Oftentimes we see that this is as far as a personal injury case will go. Someone is hurt, someone receives the right treatment to make sure that they're recovering as best they can, that they retain our office, and we're working with them to try and ensure that they're getting the treatment they need, that we're investigating, making sure that every injury, every harm that's been suffered, and every potential coverage is identified, file a claim, and we're able to resolve things with the insurance company. However, in some cases, it's not that simple. Sometimes the insurance company is unwilling to provide fair compensation to our clients, or just is outright unwilling to say that their driver was at fault. And in that case, that's when things move on to the next stage. which is the beginning of a lawsuit. Typically, lawsuits in Oklahoma, personal injury cases, are begun by filing a complaint in district court or state court in Oklahoma. And there's a complaint that's filed, it's served on the responsible people or the defendants, and then the civil process begins. And that includes back and forth of the parties filing initial pleadings. That includes discovery, where each party will be asking information. So copies of the uninsured motorist policy, copies of the insured motorist policy, documentation from all involved insurance providers, statements of the driving record of our client, of the other driver, the incident or accident report, background information. And one of the largest aspects of discovery in a personal injury case is the medical records. And that's why it's so important that if your case gets to the point of being a lawsuit, that you've documented everything properly, that you and your attorney have worked to ensure that not only you're receiving treatment to make sure that your body as a whole is recovering as much as possible, but also that you're protecting your case, that you're documenting the things that can be documented. Because an injury in a personal injury case is nothing unless you're able to document it. Because it's not enough for you to just be able to testify to what you've gone through. There's the ability to document through medical procedures, and it's important that you do that. So as the discovery goes on, the parties will learn more and more about each other's case. And that'll even include depositions. And depositions, if you haven't seen one of our videos before speaking to those, is a step in a civil case where one party gets to ask the other party or witnesses related to the case questions under oath. And it's a setting where you and your attorney are present, the other party or their attorneys are present, and a court reporter is there, or a videographer, and the court reporter at the very least is taking down every single word that's said. And the videographer is videotaping the person being deposed. And those statements are under oath. You're required to tell the truth under the penalty of perjury. And those statements can be used later on in the trial to potentially contest that your case should be allowed to proceed, or potentially a trial for other substantive things in front of the court. So it's very important that not only do you retain counsel that's got experience in personal injury law, but it's important that you retain counsel that has experience going through the civil procedure process of exchanging discovery and fighting out issues if the other side fails to provide full discovery. Depositions are a very important part of a civil case, especially a personal injury case. Your ability with the assistance of counsel to fully tell your story, to explain what you suffered, to show the complete picture of what this accident has meant to you and your family, and to document with medical treatment and present that medical treatment is essential for your case to proceed and for you to be successful. So the discovery process is very important. If at the conclusion of discovery, if the parties have still not reached an agreement during the treatment phase, the investigation phase, the claim phase, the beginning of lawsuit and discovery, the defense will typically file what's called a motion for summary judgment. And a motion for summary judgment is something that's allowed under civil procedure in both state and federal law, and that allows defendants to state that the plaintiff hasn't raised a material question of fact that's worthy of a jury's consideration. And so they would be stating that there's an element to negligence that can't be proven, there can't be a connection or lawyerese, a nexus between what took place and what the defendants have done or did not do. And if the court decides that there is no material question of fact, then the judge would grant that motion for summary judgment and your case could be dismissed outright. So it's important that the attorney you work with has experience handling those motions, has experience writing legal pleadings, and has a good experience, is well-versed in doing that, and is able to advocate on your behalf. If we get to the point of a motion for summary judgment, and if we are successful, then the next phase is typically mediation arbitration. And mediation arbitration is a process in any civil case where the judge orders the parties to go speak to someone else to try and resolve their case. And that can consist of going to a third party, so an uninvolved party that's a lawyer that has experience in personal injury cases or civil litigation. And that attorney would say to your attorney, would say to opposing parties' counsel, and to all the parties involved, my evaluation of what you present and what the other side presents tells me that I think this is a fair outcome of the case. And we have lots of experience in fighting for clients at mediation to try and get them the settlement that they deserve. And it's important to be able to advocate in that setting because that mediator's position holds a lot of weight. However, sometimes the parties can't come to an agreement, even at the point of mediation, and then what is left is jury trial. And jury trial is the show. It's the opportunity for you and your attorney, hopefully fierce advocates, to be able to tell your story, tell your experience, tell the suffering you've gone through, and present to a jury of your peers why you are entitled to damages, what's happened in your life that warrants that you recover something in this case. So it's important to ensure that the attorneys that you decide to work with have appeared in court, have tried cases, have had success in jury trial, and have the experience and reputation to be your fierce advocate. I hope that this video has been instructive to you. It's intended to give you a very quick glance at a very lengthy process, something that will take 6 months to 18 months or potentially even longer from your car accident, your personal injury case beginning through a jury trial. And even in some cases, there can be steps beyond this of appeals and other matters that go on. Hopefully this has been instructive. If you have any more questions, we'd be more than happy to meet with you. Feel free to call the office. Our number is 405-657-2323. As always, you can get tons of information from our website, jpcannonlawfirm.com. Feel free to follow us at our Facebook page here, you see at the bottom, and also our YouTube channel that's been scrolling along. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Hopefully this video has been helpful. If you have any questions, please shoot out or feel free to leave them in the comments. Thanks and have a great day.